you know what, Ted? I feel like here on the Night in the News this week, I have learned a lot about the alphabet. I almost remember back when I was in school, I could almost sing these acronyms. I want to start with, I don't know, they're all your favorites, but this is one of your favorites, the CDC. But I kind of want to use today as a catch-all because there was only 4 days of current events that I couldn't specifically talk about the IRS, or maybe you even want to comment on the head of the ATF that said he wasn't a firearms expert, which I don't know, Ted. So let's talk about the CDC for starters, and really any other of these alphabet organizations that you love so well.
Well, I think the Center for Disease Control is actually the Center for Disease Guarantee. Everybody knows that medical examiners around the globe, by the tens of thousands, are aghast at the blood clot serpentine discoveries in people who have taken the shot, because foolish people, with all due respect, I have a lot of friends, a lot of dear friends, a family member.
I'll wear that.
My blood brothers, because we believed that our government would not harm us. The CDC is connected to the Food and Drug Administration, which has gotten in bed with the communist Chinese producing our medicines and our pharmaceuticals and our vitamins. The FDA doesn't protect us and make our food and drugs safe. The FDA, in cahoots with the CDC and the USDA, I imagine they all get together and have a nice Roundup ready sandwich. It's unbelievable how the government bureaucracies, the CDC, is connected to the FDA and the USDA, and they literally put Lucky Charms, chemical warfare, dyes, and preservatives at the top of our food chain. And then you go upon the streets of America and you swear to God you got to call your Japanese friends and get some harpoons because it looks like we're being attacked by a pod of whales. The blubber factor, and that goes right to the CDC. They are not protecting us, and even their fake shot that they dared to call a vaccine, because ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ted Nugent. It's not a vaccine. You cannot warp speed an experimental shot and claim it's a vaccine. It's a contradiction in terms medically, scientifically, biologically, and historically. Somebody write that down. The CDC is in bed with the communist Chinese because the Wuhan weaponized virus didn't leak from the Wuhan lab. We didn't leak little big boy from the Enola Gay. We dropped it on purpose. They unleashed a weaponized virus on mankind because the communist Chinese are genocidal Satan serpents, and now Uncle Sam is one of them. That breaks my heart to say that, Keith, but the evidence is irrefutable unless you're living under a rock. So once again, if we're not blowing the whistles with our elected employees that we know the CDC is criminal and they are violating their very job description, they're not Center for Disease Control. Well, actually, they are a Center for Disease Control. They're controlling intentional manufactured diseases to kill more Americans than any government-issued shot in the history of our once great country. And if you're not telling your elected employees that, then the CDC and the Communist Chinese would like to thank you.
Two other things I want you to comment, Ted. Why do we need 87,000 armed IRS agents? And the last thing I definitely want to get your take on is how could the head of the ATF, and for those of you that don't know what that acronym stands for, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, how could he take the podium in front of the U.S. Congress and say, I am not a firearms expert? Ted, IRS, ATF, final word this week.
My name is Ted Nugent. I'm experimenting in self-government. And I call upon other conscientious, caring, intelligent, dedicated, patriotic Americans to stand up against the Internal Revenue Service that is gobbling up and torching our hard-earned tax dollars to pay off criminal activity. They're literally sending billions of dollars of our state-of-the-art weaponry to the Taliban. They've already done it. They're spending our hard-earned tax dollars to slaughter babies, including babies about to be born. That's not even a medical procedure anymore. And that's outright murder. And they're forcing us to pay for this stuff. We're paying for public television and public radio, which is nothing but a communist propaganda ministry. They haven't asked our permission of how they're spending our tax dollars. And then students who want an education and have a job so they can pay for their education, driven by independence and self-sufficiency, the people who are responsible are now going to have to pay for people that got stoned and drunk every weekend and didn't pay off their student loans. And then out in California, people who have never owned slaves in the history of our families now have to pay billions of dollars to people who never were slaves. Many of them aren't from Africa. Keith, this is Planet of the Serpents. But once again, the IRS, they are gobbling our money, and the ATF, they don't even know anything about firearms. They literally are babbling idiots. I said back in my book, God, Guns, and Rock and Roll, and I worked with some ATF agents because I did some raids with them, and there were some good ones. I don't think there's any good ones anymore. I'm sorry, guys. It doesn't look like there's any good ATF agents. And alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. What the hell does those three things have to do with each other? Why don't we have alcohol, tobacco, firearms, skateboards, and powdered donuts? None of those things have any relationship together. The alcohol is a drink. I don't partake, but what the hell does the government have to say about that? Tobacco, it's a farm product. What the hell does the government have to say about that? And firearms are guaranteed from God that I have the right to keep and bear them. Why is there a bureaucracy torching my tax dollars working with things that have nothing to do with government control? Hey, ATF, you fuck.
Okay, now what we're going to do after the show today, Ted, is
are we gonna edit any of this today?
No.
I gotta tell you, I have had it with these jackbooted thugs that want. By the way, here's the summation. Hey, ATF. You're not a lawmaking agency. You're a law enforcement agency that shouldn't even exist. We should get rid of the ATF. We should get rid of the FBI. We should get rid of the DEA because you're wasting fucking money and you're not accomplishing shit. We've spent trillions of dollars with you goofballs, and all the problems you're supposed to correct are worse now than when you started. How about eat fucking die, you jackbooted communist pieces of shit? Why don't you go to a drag queen event and suck on camera? I don't know what you want to edit out of that, but I love it all.
I think that is the promo for the whole week with a bunch of beeps. Now, Ted, what a great week of going through the alphabet. We could have done much more. But here's what I want you to do after the show today. I want you to go out, shoot a few rounds at your range, get your bow out with Shemaine and go shoot some arrows because tomorrow night, because tomorrow when we do the nightly Nuge, I hope you find a guitar because I want to talk to you about Fred Bear. It's the 35th anniversary. We're going to put all this alphabet serpentine soup behind us. And we're going to talk about music, not just music, your music. Tomorrow night on the Friday Free-for-All of the Nightly Nuge.
I love my music. We'll see you guys tomorrow.